Good evening, Crimson Tide Nation, and welcome to the 24th edition of the Alabama Crimson Tide Live Call-In Show from yours truly, Jackson Johnson and Jeffrey and Only Talk Sports, where we take your calls on the Alabama Crimson Tide, all right here on Alabama The Voice of College Football and the Voice of College Football @Twitter account, and much more. And let me tell you something, folks, it's going to be a wild ride discussing the latest news on Alabama football. How you doing today, good buddy?
Doing pretty good, Jackson. Definitely excited to talk some more Alabama Crimson Tide athletics, football, and basketball like we do every week, especially with you guys, the callers. It's always a blast doing that. We all have a caller already on the line, and he's a fan favorite for sure, so definitely can't wait to talk to him when we bring him on. But, yeah, show number 24 for the call-in show. Next week's going to be number 30 for Crimson Tide Live. So we're trucking along over here. Definitely appreciate everybody's support. But March Madness is going on. Everybody's tuning into that. I'm watching it right now as we speak. It's been a lot of fun watching it today. It's one of the best days of sports. The first day of official March Madness, not the first four where it's like, oh, you get a little teaser, but this is the real deal where it's all day, 12 hours of nonstop college basketball, 4 games at a time. It's fantastic. And hopefully our Crimson Tide go on a big run in the tournament, maybe can make it all the way to the Final Four at the least. But we want to win the whole thing. I actually, in my only bracket that I made, a little biased, I picked Alabama to win it all in my bracket. So is it going to be wrong? Most likely, but it might hopefully right. Absolutely. I would hope to be right. I don't know if I have any shot of that, but it'd be fantastic. But they tip off against Robert Morris tomorrow. It should be a lot of fun.
On True TV.
Yeah, the channel that everybody has to look for in their catalog or whatever to see if it exists. Or on their phone now. Used to it was a catalog, but now people just look it up on their phone.
I'm old enough to remember when it had like the police video shows on there, where it's like I'm old enough to remember that. And
yeah, now it's like they do that Impractical Jokers or whatever. That's like the only thing they even air anymore. Kind of like how MTV has like ridiculousness. It's like you air one show, like that's all you got. I mean, you don't have any other programming. I mean, they just following the SpongeBob at Nickelodeon lead, where they just show that for like 12 hours a day, or Teen Titans Go at Cartoon Network. It's like you got to air something else besides that. Like, come on.
True. I mean,
just call it the SpongeBob Network if you're not going to air anything else, right?
Well, there you go. But here's something you can get a little better value from. Alabama with the Voice of College Football by becoming a YouTube member, where for $2.99 a month, you can become a Crimson Faithful member. And you'll get a loyalty badge next to your name in the live chat. You'll get a member shout out, custom emoji to use in the comments and the live chat, and much more. For $4.99 a month, you can get a monthly hangout with yours truly, Jackson Johnson, Jeffrey Only Talk Sports, Coach Burtz, Manny Wilson, and Brady Quoto. And you get priority replies to comments. And the big one, for $9.99 a month, you can connect on social media with each of us. And you can give out content requests of any kind. And neither rain, nor sleet, nor snow, nor bad weather, nor any storm of any kind will put a stop from fulfilling your request for your request at Alabama with the Voice College Football. We will make sure we fulfill any content request that you want for Alabama with the Voice College Football. And, of course, there's the Disputed National Champions College Football's Historical 1990s Reset, where you'll learn about what happened during the 90s, how the decade changed sport, why the championship results should be questioned, how to critically think through the scenarios, and appreciate the accomplishments of teams that were not recognized as champions. This book provides an in-depth analysis of the changes, controversies, and outcomes that defined a decade of college football. It challenges readers to explore and critically evaluate the decisions that shaped the national championship landscape. Unlock the mysteries of college football's most debated decade. Grab your copy now. And we're going to have our first caller. He is a fan favorite. Like Jeffrey said, he is the one and only himself, Alabama Richie.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing great. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
Not too bad. Just enjoying this March Madness like you guys were talking, and our baseball team and basketball, and just fired up for our sports, baby. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
I got something cool to share with you guys and everyone listening in. I am going to apply to go to Alabama online very soon, so I hope that it works out.
Absolutely, man. I hope it does.
Yeah.
That's awesome news, man. That is awesome news.
Oh
So
man.
the thing about it is living in Florida, it's kind
Mhm.
of hard. And people say, how come you like Bama so much? I've been a fan since I was in elementary school of the
Mhm.
culture. And I remember that there was a player that played for us back in the day. His name is Javier Arenas. And he
Mhm.
straight on said that if you want to be one of the best at something, you need to go to where they don't take any shortcuts and they don't implement any BS, and that's where I think Alabama really did it for me. So I finally told my father, I have it on my wall at work. I said I will go to Alabama even if it's online. And my father said to me, he goes, how bad do you want to go to Bama? I said, it's my dream school. And he said, well, I support you going to Bama if that's what you want to do. So I couldn't get my transcripts because of my old high schools on spring break this week. But Monday, I'm
Mhm.
going to call them up, get the transcript, and then turn it in. It's super easy. And I was thinking I'd have to take like an ACT or SAT. And the lady at the admissions office said, all you got to do is make at least a 2.0, and then send in your transcripts. If they like what they see, then we're like the easiest school in the SEC to get into.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, people
so
like to joke about that, but I mean, it's still good. It's still good to go to college, no matter how low the requirement is. But especially Big Ten schools, like they'll be like, oh, like Northwestern, or Stanford from down the ACC, like, oh, they're way better than Alabama. It's like, well, again, it's still a college. It's still a big deal. It's still awesome.
So one of the things people don't know either is if you're an easier school to get into, you
Mhm.
can generate more money that way. Because if the amount more people, I learned this when I went to Pensacola State, near where I'm from. The
Mhm.
more people that get in, because the teacher that I had for public, I had to take like a public speaking class, and the
Mhm.
guy he went to Alabama and Auburn. Like I think he started out at Bama and then finished up at Auburn, which I don't have anything against it. He's not a fan of the athletics. He was just there for
Mhm.
a degree, so I get it. But he was saying that the more people you allow into your university, the more money you can get to help out with like
Mhm.
to academics and help out with like the misfortunate that are able, because they like every school does programs to give back to students that have a hard time.
Mhm.
Like you can pay to get in, but you have hard time with like books or like things you need for school. So I think because we're such an easier school, I think we're able to help our programs very well, because a lot of the money goes back towards the sports programs too, so it works out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but I've always, when I like looking at like companies and like what they sell. So like you look at like car companies, if you're selling like 100 Ferraris, versus 30,000 Toyota Camrys, like what money are you making more of? You're making more selling the 30,000 Toyota Camrys than you are the 100 Ferraris, even though they cost a lot individually. You're not selling that many of them, so you're not as
Yes.
valuable of a company. I know that's not the same thing as you just said, but I get what you're saying. Like it's
Yeah.
it's better to have more people going there, even if like they might not at the end of the day get like massive, like jobs in the future where they can put a lot back. Maybe they can put a little bit back, and plus it's just it builds the student body as well. Because I mean, there's some universities there's barely anybody there. It's only a select few. And even though all those people might end up being CEOs one day, it only goes so far. And maybe they're not even interested in the university after they graduate, so they're not bringing anything back to the school. So I agree. I mean, it definitely is something that a lot of people don't talk about for sure.
Absolutely. And another thing that I know you guys probably heard the rant that Greg Byrne went on about supporting the Yay Alabama, like the NIL. One of
Mm-hmm.
the things that I was telling somebody that I thought people listening in would like to hear is you don't have to buy a full on membership if you buy the gear. Like I always like to collect the Yay Alabama shirts for every program we do, because it goes back to the program. Now, do they get a lot out of it? Not necessarily, but we definitely contribute something. So I went on when I first came out with my X account, Twitter. I said I don't need to buy a membership to know that I buy the gear and still support us that way. And the amount of gear that I bought from Yay Alabama, like the shirt I'm wearing, the baseball slammer shirt, is one of the ones they did for our NIL this year. For baseball, I got the Team 28 shirt, 29, yeah, 28 shirt, and it was cool to get for our softball because all our programs deserve the same deal. So hopefully that they start to take notice to that and things. But so how do you think the base? Excuse me, we're going to do tomorrow in basketball and moving forward?
I think against Robert Morris, I think we'll be fine. I mean, so far, I mean, carnage could happen tomorrow, but so far it's been very light on bid stealers. I mean, McNeese, or not bid stealers, but like Cinderellas rather. McNeese was not really a Cinderella. I mean, it is, but it's not. It's not like a major upset. And then Drake with Missouri, same thing. They kind of count. But overall, like the teams like Auburn, the ones at the top, they're taking care of business. Tennessee took care of business. So, I mean, I would assume that Alabama would be fine tomorrow, but you cannot be lax, especially on defense. I want to see more so than an elite offensive game because I know Alabama can do that. I want to see a good defensive game against Robert Morris. Like, can you slow them down and like show America like, hey, we're gonna defend hard in this tournament. Maybe we're not going to be the best on defense, but we're going to give it all we got. So then that will, make it seem like they're going to be able to make a run because they're going to be able to stop the better teams that they have coming up. Grant Nelson, we've talked about the injury with him and all that. I think regardless if he plays, they'll be fine, but I would hopefully like to see him to see if he's on the mend and like going to be ready for the tougher game. So hopefully he's back. So that's definitely something to watch too, how he plays.
Absolutely. What you think about it, Jackson? You ready for it tomorrow?
I'm set. I just want to get through Robert Morris and the winner of St. Mary's Vandy. I'm hoping we can have a deep run, but anytime we've been a top seed in March Madness, it has not worked out so well most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing that I'm going to say about the team this year is we still have a pretty decent team, and I'm not counting us out. Neither am I counting out our girls squad, but there's a lot of other teams that, just look like, we just have to play the best ball we've ever seen under Coach Oates, right? And I think that losing Latrell Wrightsell at the beginning of the season really hurt because that gives us another scoring option in case one of our guys is lackluster and just fails to show up. And that's the thing I said about the center position this year with Cliff Amari and Aiden Sherrill. It's like if Amari starts to have a little bit of trouble, you need to play Aiden Sherrill and get him used to the system because he's young, he's a freshman, whereas Amari's a senior and he has no chance to really come back. So that's what you're going to be looking for at the moment is who steps up, and I think that's going to be a big factor. Grant not playing will not hurt us. But moving forward in the Vandy game, if whoever wins that game is definitely going to be a huge factor having him because I've always said that Vandy can play and Byington's a good coach. So we'll see what happens. Real quick before I jump off to give y'all another person on the quarterback race. We've talked a lot about, or you guys have mentioned a lot of, Keelan Russell, Ty Simpson, Austin Mack. Who do y'all think is going to start the FSU game, and who seems to be, in y'all's opinion, putting in the most work?
Well, so far on the poll, Jackson put the poll in the chat for people to answer. Who would you like to be the starter? Keelan Russell's winning out 67% to Ty Simpson and Austin Mack, both at 17. So, I mean, Bama Nation in general is wanting Keelan Russell because of his perceived talent, and just the little bit we've seen from Ty Simpson did not impress. But it's just so hard to throw a guy under the bridge like that just for a few performances, in brief moments to say that he's no good. But he has had some opportunities to showcase his ability, and it hasn't really looked great. So, I mean, Keelan Russell has gotten a lot of praise from the staff. And to me, like when you have a staff and a coaching staff, like the coordinators and the head coach constantly praising that individual, more so it seems than the others, then I think Keelan Russell's going to get it at the end of the day. But there's so much time left. I mean, things can change. I mean, maybe the others catch up. But if Keelan Russell already seems like he's going to be the starter now, like you would think he would be the one that would have to gain ground in the race because he should be the one at the back end because he's the youngest. But it already seems like maybe he has the lead. I would have a hard time seeing him losing that lead. But, I mean, we got such long time between now and the season. So, I mean, like I said, things could change. But I think Keelan Russell is definitely ahead right now.
Absolutely. Another thing I was going to bring out to everybody is Julian Saying, right? So we talked about a couple weeks ago how we had Julian Saying and he left for Ohio State. I was not disappointed that we lost him in a way because it would have been nice to have him, and maybe Keelan didn't come to Bama if we had him still. But the problem is a lot of these kids that transferred out of the program were not under Coach DeBoer. They were under Coach Saban. So for someone that's going to hear this for the first time, my perspective is that this is now going to be Coach DeBoer's team and what he's actually going to be able to do. So you're definitely going to see a lot of, to me, a brand new way. And bringing in Grubb is definitely going to be a huge asset because the two of them have been successful everywhere they go. Have been. So if something was not to work out between Grubb and DeBoer, then to me, it either feels like it was, the culture in Tuscaloosa didn't set a foot, or maybe it's just because of how stacked the SEC is. But that's my only depiction of what could happen if they don't have a great. But I think they're going to do fine. And Keelan being there is definitely going to be a great asset for us because that what he brings to the table. And, I think he will start. A lot of people are saying Austin Mack now that he's turning heads, but, that's only a couple practices. You haven't seen him in the spring game. You haven't seen him in the first game. And yeah, he's DeBoer's guy from Washington. But when they were at Washington, I mean, Penix transferred to Washington for a reason, right? They had really, if you really look at the roster at Washington, they really had no other option other than Michael Penix or lose all your games or whatnot. And that's the same thing I said about Florida and Graham Mertz. It's like, you want to lose, does Billy Napier want to lose his job, or does he want to start realizing who he has as a quarterback in DJ Lagway? Same thing with Robbie Ashford and Lenora Sellers at South Carolina. You want to lose your job, or do you want to start playing the guy that's going to win for you? And that was Lenora Sellers, and the choice was obvious, and you saw what you got out of it. So we'll definitely see what we get out of Keelan, and I'm excited for the season. But I've never said that Mac or Ty Simpson were terrible. I've never once said that. I'm just saying sometimes you got to recognize, who's just the better guy at the moment, and that's where I'm standing at.
That's absolutely fair. I mean, I think the other thing that makes it so hard is because I feel like NIL has really accelerated this because people expect you to win immediately. I mean, when you see guys like DeBoer going to Washington and he instantly wins with Penix, instantly. Like it's not even like a year or two. There's no gap where it's like, oh, he takes over the program, it's bad, and it took him a year or two to get it going. No, it's instantly. So it's like you don't have leeway anymore. We just saw, I know it's basketball, but Kevin Keats got fired a year after he made the Final Four, a year after that in college basketball. Like that would have never happened prior to this, for sure. So that makes the leash for any coach less, and especially at Bama, where the expectations are to be in the hunt to win a national championship every year. And now the bar has been set lower to make the playoff. It's a 12-team playoff. Like, if you can't make that at Alabama, something's wrong because of all the resources and the talent and all that's there, the fan base, and especially following a legend in Nick Saban. I know people say how hard that is, but you could also say it shouldn't be that bad considering that the program's in a great spot. He left it at the top. It's not like you took over like Saban was declining and Bama was 6-6 in his final year, like a Phil Fulmer situation at Tennessee where it was falling apart. I was going off the rails. This isn't the case. So it's like if Alabama keeps going down, then he's done. DeBoer's finished. Like he's going to lose the fan base. He's not going to be given any more time. So this isn't a make or break year all the way to me, but like he can't have a bad year. And if Keelan Russell's the guy, it's putting a lot of pressure on Keelan Russell. It's putting a lot of pressure on the coaching staff to have success. immediately with him because like this is his guy. It's not Saban's guy. Like Milroe, you could be like, well, it's not the quarterback that he would want or would have ever had if it wasn't for Saban. So there's a lot of pressure. Just to be a coach, I mean, they make so much money that it's hard to really feel bad for them when they get fired because they're making so much of the buyouts and stuff. But you kind of have to feel a little bit for how quickly they want you to turn these programs around these days. They don't give you any time, but that's just the nature of NIL.
It is. And one thing I was going to bring up too is the Boar at Washington. I mean, you have to look at that conference. I mean, the rest of the conference to me between Washington and Oregon were pretty much not there. I mean, that was Arizona State's worst team in a long time under Kenny Dillingham before he really got Bo oh my gosh, the really stud running back to buy in. And then Sam Leviett, the guy that transferred from Michigan State over to Arizona State. Bo Scatabo. Yeah, him. That guy. And then Oregon State with DJU was just okay. Colorado was there with Dion and his son and Travis, but they weren't like they were the second year under his son and Travis.
USC was fair.
Yeah, they were fair. Washington State was under Mateer was just okay, but they weren't anywhere near going to get you to where you needed to be, and you weren't jumping out of your seat. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but I think the Boars got it together, but hey, we'll see what happens. But appreciate y'all having me on, you guys. You have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and roll tide to both of you.
Roll
and good luck to us tomorrow.
Roll Tide, man. Good. We pray that you get in, which I got a feeling you will.
I'll definitely be praying for that. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Real quick, baseball team got a dub 6-5, so hopefully we can keep it going. Softball can get it going, gymnastics, all our programs, and we'll go from there. And Roll Tide in our basketball tomorrow. Hopefully, both our squads get the job done.
Definitely root for a dub. Hopefully, it's a start of a big run.
Yes, sir. I'll see you guys later.
See you later, Richie. We will keep it rolling on the Alabama Call-In Show. 129 people are tuning in on the Voice College Football Heads Count. Come on in to Alabama with the Voice College Football link where you can call in. The call-in link is in the chat and it is in the description. We have our next caller, the one and only himself, Caden the Man, the first caller ever on the Alabama Call-In Show from October 10th of 2024. How are you doing tonight, good buddy?
I'm just relaxing, chilling tonight. Good to hear Jackson and Jeffrey. Kind of the change of scenery watching March Madness, and I'd say my bracket's going as I have foreseen it to go. As of week 6 of the college basketball season, so I cannot complain.
There we go.
I don't know what it is, but I just had a strange ability to foresee things. I don't know, but maybe it's just me or I'm just crazy.
Last week you were the Dark Lord of the Sith. What happened to that?
Hayden the Man has returned.
There you go.
I'm trying, mixing it up a little bit. Showing off a little bit of my talent and just something I don't really show people on YouTube.
Okay. Just some bate chocolate. There you go.
Yeah, exactly, Jackson. Jeffrey, keep your camera on, dude. Your face is fine. I'd say about 96% of women would love that face any day of the week. Just being honest, buddy.
Right,
but as far as the Alabama's basketball schedule, I know you guys are going to crush Robert Morris. I mean, for how good the team's been producing so far. But my thing is, I'm concerned about the St. Mary's Vandy game. So between whoever wins that one has to play y'all. So I'm a little nervous about Alabama losing to St. Mary's because St. Mary is they're coming up and they're shocking people nowadays. I mean, come on now. And especially, especially Duke and St. John's. Don't sleep on St. John's now. St. John has been whoo-wee.
Well,
Yeah, St. John's is having their best season in like 30 years, and it's no surprise with Rick Pitino taking over that he's found a way to reinvigorate a dead program essentially. I mean that's what Georgetown fans want, right? Like Georgetown fans have been wanting them to be good forever. Indiana to a lesser extent. I mean, they've never fallen as hard as that, like consistently, but still, like programs that have struggled for a while, they would love to win like that. But it took St. John's hiring Rick Pitino, a guy that had his reputation completely tarnished with what went down at Louisville, and nobody would hire him except St. John's. It makes sense why St. John's hired him. I mean, he's been a Big East guy for a lot of his career.
A national championship coach.
National championship coach. Definitely, like obviously
One
they
of the
didn't care
best.
about the reputation stuff. So, I mean, and it's paying off for him.
I mean, and speaking of Georgetown fans, Georgetown is really having a surprise season this year. So I can say this on behalf of everybody I know that's a big college basketball fan. That's either Duke, St. John's, or Georgetown. They're loving how the bracket is going, and I was just saying, it's really turning up to be a good season this year. Full of surprises, but yet good games. And let's not forget, college football is in what? 5 months, I believe? Not even. And Alabama fans are really starting to look on Keelan Russell. Now, I've been looking into Keelan Russell a little bit. Keelan Russell's a good quarterback, but they need to give him – they can't just be praising him in the locker room. The staff can't just be praising him in the weeks of the offseason. They need to actually get him on the field against a good opponent. So then open up against Florida State, that actually really show like what he's capable of. Not only against Florida State, but he has to go into more of the bigger games, so like against Texas and against someone we're both familiar with, Georgia. He needs to be tested. He cannot just go in there and say like, oh, he's the best recruit since, Bryce Young and Jalen Milroe. He has to be tested. Iron sharpens iron, as they say. Mm-hmm. So there's my opinion on Keelan Russell.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, only time will tell. I mean, we're so far away. I mean, like, Jackson knows the exact days, hours, and seconds of time we have left before the college football season. But I know we're getting closer. We got April, May, March, June, July, August, so like 5-6 months left.
Yes.
And
yes,
I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's a transition time for Alabama. Everybody's definitely that are not Bama fans are excited that we're not as good, but it's going to be interesting to see if this year we can bounce back in a positive direction or not. And if not, then it's going to put a lot of pressure on DeBoer and the staff. But if
but also think about this.
It does well, then that's definitely a good sign for the future of the tenure of DeBoer.
163 days till kickoff for the 2025 season.
There we go.
But also think about this. I wanted to tell you this. I heard from a good source down in Georgia of a good friend of mine who's a big University of Georgia fan. I may have told you about him before, Jeffrey. But he's been keeping me up to date on them Georgia Bulldogs down in Athens. And from what I've been hearing, Georgia's in a bit of a transitional phase right now where now they're trying to really start getting that roster going. And now the whole defensive room is really going off the wire. Let's just per se. Because I guess for what he said to me last week, or sometime last Friday night, he's like, Georgia's really starting to get more aggressive on defense. They're starting to plot more. They're starting to plan more tactics against like Alabama or Texas. They're starting to focus more on of a 3 minutes defense. In and out. You end them early and then. They either score, force, fumble, they get a pick six. They're working on that, and they've been working on that since Ohio State won the national championship. So just wanted to give everybody a heads up there. So Bama fans, I would at least be a little concerned that your neighbors down there in Georgia are really starting to eat more meat, lifting more weights, and starting to get a little more aggressive in the weight room. Just a warning.
I will say that Georgia needs to, for about probably the third or fourth straight year in a row, needs to get their culture under control. They had yet another drunk driving, reckless driving incident today with a receiver. So that keeps happening. Their players definitely don't follow the rules very well outside of the university. They follow the law. And I think that's impacting the culture. But yeah, Georgia's stacked with talent, but their program is struggling to remain clean with no funny business, or not even funny business. I don't even know what you want. Just like doing
shenanigans.
Shenanigans. That's the perfect word. There you go. Shenanigans off the field. Like I will never deny the talent that Georgia has. They have a lot of money, a lot of NIL, and they're getting great players, but they're not.
They need to keep them in line.
Yeah, that's a problem. And like people get
Call
mad
an
when I
Uber
say
driver.
that, but they like a lot of programs, not all, most have a few players that culturally probably aren't great. I mean, let's be honest. They probably do. But Georgia just seems to have way more than the average, way more than all these other programs, and it's honestly a terrible look. I don't know if it was drunk driving. I know it was garbage driving. But the point still stands that Georgia has had a lot of problems the last 3 or 4 years, and a lot of them have been drunk driving. I don't know if this one was. I just saw reckless driving Georgia receiver. That's all I needed to know. It doesn't matter if it was drunk driving or not. Reckless driving is still awful because you can kill people. You can kill yourself doing that. It's dangerous. You don't do that. If you want to drive like a maniac, get on a racetrack or a drag race thing and just go to town. But don't do it on
you could go down to a mud track and start raising heck over there.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, these players got so much money. Buy a car, buy whatever. It doesn't have to be a nice car.
Buy a Dodge Hellcat.
Just go crazy with it in a setting that's okay to do that, and I'm cool with it. I don't care, but don't put people's lives at risk. I mean, and Georgia has a major problem. Like I don't care if it's drunk driving or not. Because I Mayhem, you're right. I probably wasn't. Appreciate you for being here, but like to me, I don't care if it has anything to do with driving wrongly, like not within like the speed limit. I mean, people drive over the speed limit, but where it's dangerous. It irritates me because so many people die that way, whether you're looking at your phone or you're just like infotainment center and your system in your car. It's sad. And I don't know why Georgia keeps having these problems, and Kirby Smart doesn't say anything about it that I know of. Maybe he has, but I haven't heard anything significant that he said like, oh, we're going to clean this up. And like Georgia fans don't care. As long as they win, they don't care. And that's sad. I mean, if I was a Georgia fan, I would still be like, this is despicable. This needs to stop. This looks bad. I mean, Alabama's had their fair share of problems, but you know what's funny about that? Most of our players commit their junk when they're in the NFL. So they don't do it while they're at Alabama, which is hilarious. But Georgia has a lot of problems.
And I understand that, but also Georgia needs to hire somebody for Kirby Smart that can manage those guys because they're talented. But they also need to understand that if they're going to live up to the way that they have and the way they've been functioning, they have to keep everybody in line. Mayhem, I'm going to say this to you. They need to hire somebody for Kirby Smart to keep an eye on those kids. At Ohio State, they don't mess around. And especially when Coach Tressel was there, nobody messed around when Coach Tressel was there. And I'll say that personally because I've talked to like some of the guys that were in the locker room with him. And so I kind of have that notion, and I know that for a fact. Coach Tressel was somebody you never mess around with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, times have changed, I know, for the worse, where you can't be like that. You can't be a hardball as a coach anymore as much, but there's still got to be a way, like you said, even if it's not the head coach, you hire somebody. You know, you don't want to say like HR. I like, how that is like a company, right? But you got to hire somebody that's going to be like, yeah, you can't do this, or this is going to be happening to you. Like, if you do this, like this really bad thing, like you're done. Like you're kicked off the team. You lose a scholarship, whatever. If it's not that, if it's something less, severe, like you miss a couple games. And that's what really irritates me is these players are doing this stuff. And then like they're getting the punishments, like unless they're not public, they're not getting any punishments. Like, even the NFL's having this problem. Tyreek Hill was driving like 140 miles an hour in his McLaren. Then he resists the cops, and then he literally gets to play in the NFL game an hour later. How? Why? He shouldn't have been able to play that day, but he did. This stuff's bad. It's wrong. Like, you do things that you're not supposed to do, and you're supposed to get punished for that. I don't care that these are athletes. I don't care that they're important to their team. I don't care at all. Like, you have to get punished because you're not learning anything. You're not being taught anything if you just keep like, oh, well, I did this and I didn't get punished for it. I can do it again.
I think it's like if Tyreek Hill was like a backup or a third stringer, it would be, we don't condone this bad behavior. But it's because he's a star, he can get away with some things.
Which to me is wrong. And
like, it's ridiculous.
Mayhem says reckless driving in Georgia is going 15 miles over the speed limit. Yes, I will say it's wrong and it's a problem, but I'm going to wait until I get more info to make my judgment. My thing is, I don't particularly care about this individual case. Like, I think it was a wide receiver. His name was Nitro, which is highly ironic. His name's Nitro. Zoom, that's hilarious. But the thing is it's not about that particular case. It's the Georgia problem at large. This keeps happening in general. So
bottom line is UGA needs to clean up their act if they really want to start going back the way that they were.
Mm-hmm. Ever since they won that last title, it's gotten way worse, and that's why they're getting worse as a program. And I called it last year. Georgia was an 8-5 team, masquerading as a playoff team. They had 3 games that they escaped: Georgia Tech, Kentucky, and the other one slipping my mind right now because of the fact Tennessee. And I'm tired. But yeah, those 3 games, they should have lost all 3. And I know that shoulda, coulda, woulda. They won the game. But I'm just saying they did not look rock solid last year. That's why when you've come on and said, like, they're coming for Bama, like, they probably are. But they got to clean up their own problems first, or they're not doing anything. They're not doing a darn thing if they don't clean up their act. Their program has major problems. And I think it's sick that nothing's been done about this. Nothing. Like, they just keep doing it every month. More players committing crimes, and nothing's done. And honestly, again, Georgia fans online defend their team. That's what I don't understand. Like, I'll call them out, like, yo, your program's got some problems here. Like, this is bad. And then they're like, we're winning games. Yay. No. Like, I was mad.
You're not
remembers this probably but Jackson, but I was mad when Brandon Miller and all that happened with Bama basketball a couple years ago. That was disgusting. And then all those fans were wearing those shirts saying, we're murderers. What is wrong with you? Like, honestly, I ditched hard that season. Like, I love Alabama, and I want Alabama to win games in every sport. I'm a major Alabama fan. I've been since I was a kid. I could not root for that hardly. I just couldn't, because I was sick. Absolutely sickening what happened that season. And the fact people were defending that, shame on you. Shame on all of the Alabama fans that defended that. You don't defend that. You do not defend that. One guy murdered a lady, and Brandon Miller's involvement, he gave the gun to the guy, whatever. Like, again, you can say accidental. You don't give a gun to a guy, but I don't know. Brandon Miller got off the hook. I don't know the severity of that because they really kind of kept that under wraps, but the way that was all handled was horrible, and it made Alabama look horrible, and I didn't like it. And
bottom line is
Carolina. I said Carolina shouldn't have made the tournament. I'm a Carolina fan, but I still said that they shouldn't have made the tournament, and then I had people tell me I'm not a Carolina fan. How come I can't be a fan of a team but still be objective about things that are wrong? That's what I don't understand. People just overlook that. So you watch a game, and your team shoots 40 free throws, and the other team shoots 10, and yet you can't admit that maybe the refs helped you. I don't understand that. I'm like, yeah, yeah, they helped this team. They helped my team out in this game. I don't know why they did. I didn't like it. Should have been fair. But people don't do that because as long as their team wins, it doesn't matter if their players are committing crimes off the field. It doesn't matter if they're killing people. It doesn't matter if the refs help. It don't matter. Some people just don't care. And I feel like there's a line that is crossed where even if you're a fan of a team, don't ditch your team. I never ditched Bama. I was really mad that season with Bama basketball. But there's a point that you got to cross where you got to at least admit as an individual that something's wrong. Yeah, your team did something wrong. And no one does that hardly. They just defend because as long as they're a fan of a team, doesn't matter what they do, it's fine. It's fine. No, that's not how that should work, but whatever. I mean, I don't know if this rant means anything, but that's just the way I feel about that.
No, it's just you're just being honest, Jeffrey. And what I tell you and Jackson, I know you guys are Bama fans, but Jackson or Jeffrey, I don't got much time on my hands nowadays because I'm working a lot. But have you guys ever thought about emailing somebody from like UGA, talk about maybe hiring somebody from Coach Smart or somebody like that?
I'd love to do that. I mean, they probably wouldn't listen, but I would love to do that because, I mean, it would make their program a lot more likable to me.
Hell.
I mean, because, I mean, when they first won their first title, I was happy for them. They beat us. I was like, good for you, George. You hadn't won since 1980. That's great. Now, every time I see your program, I cringe because it's like, yeah, your program is just bad, completely bad. And I don't.
After beating us again, that was really what took them over the board.
Well, some people that were watching Georgia, they say that they're kind of like Florida at the end of the Urban Meyer era.
Well, I mean, it kind of feels like that. I mean, it will be cemented if Kirby leaves. It's never going to be the end of the Urban Meyer era as long as Kirby's there because Kirby's not going to let it fall off, all the way. But they're to me, in my opinion, and it is my opinion, I don't think Georgia's ever going to get back to a national championship level at the very top unless they clean up their program. And Mayhem, I agree with this. I agree. You're right. It's too many people that are fans of teams don't know anything that's going on. But you still, in like Alabama basketball's case, you cannot wear the T-shirts that they wore at that game. You know what I'm talking about, Jackson. You remember that. And I was disgusted by that. That was just insanely sickening. Like, I could not believe they did that. Like, why? Like, I don't know. I mean, there's just some things you can't defend. I mean, I've watched games before, like Carolina. I mean, people always say Carolina gets all the calls, right? I have seen games before where my Carolina basketball team, Tar Heels, have gotten a lot of calls that were favorable. And I'm like, don't like that. But again, so many people just don't care. I don't understand that. I don't understand why so many people don't care. Because again, it boils down to as long as their team wins, they're happy, no matter the circumstances. Like you could have like fist fights breaking out, like your team just punches out the other team all to the ground. It's like, oh well, we won, so I don't care that they just bludgeoned all those players and got all these technicals and ejections. We won the game, so I'm good. I mean, I know that not everybody's like that, but it just seems it's social media too. But even just look at the fans, just some people they don't ever go against their team no matter what they do. When some things are indefensible, some things have passed the point where you can't defend that. You got to at least acknowledge, like, yes, I'm a fan of this team. I love this team, but this was wrong. And if people did that more often, I would never complain about this sort of thing. But people don't on a large basis, and it's frustrating to me.
To answer Mayhem's question, what's your favorite NFL team? Me, the Eagles. That's the bottom line for me.
Mine's the Titans and Jeffrey.
I mean, I live in North Carolina, so the Panthers. Yeah.
He said it very happily.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Panthers, man, but the owner's bad and we stink.
But the bottom line is, one of y'all needs to get up on the email Mark Rogers, or one of them, or heck, even somebody email my old buddy Uncle Lou, and ask him to email Georgia, or someone email Georgia to get a hold of old Uncle Lou there, because my old buddy Uncle Lou needs to go up in there and yell at him. And open up the can.
It might work, Caden.
You know, Uncle Lou hates my guts, but I said before, he needs to get hired by the coaching staff over there to manage them kids, because it'd be good.
I mean, the thing is, like I said, I can understand if it's like happening every now and then. I mean, you got a large team, 80, 90, 100 players, and it'd be completely different, man. But
But here's the thing, Jeffrey. But they need it. But they need to keep the discipline factor. It's Smart wants to keep the discipline factor in his staff, and especially on his team, because he knows that he's a prime target. Then that's the problem. They need to keep the disciplinary root in their team, because if they don't, all heck's gonna break loose, and then what Georgia team is gonna be there? 8-5. It ain't gonna be the same 14-1, 13-1, 15-0 team. They need to keep the disciplinary check on that roster, especially because if they're gonna say back-to-back national champions, most dominant team, most dominant, most points not allowed by defense. There's their issue. That's what they really, really need to get straightened out, and that's where they really need to get that iron sharpened out.
Yeah, it's absolutely fair. I mean, Mayhem makes a good point about how many other teams have a lot of discipline issues and aren't talked about because they suck. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I do feel that, yes, because, Georgia's the program that they are, that, it's going to get highlighted more. But again, it's not even because the program wins. It's because of it's because of the type players the program brings in. They're already well-known individuals because they were highly ranked, right? I mean, it's like when Henry Ruggs did what he did. Everybody was talking about it. He's like, yeah, he was at Alabama. He was a 5-star player. He was a great college player, and he was doing great in the NFL. And then he does that, and it's like he's ruined his career and whatever. So, I mean, yeah, it's going to get talked about more. But I just have a hard time believing, especially when I don't have any proof, that most other programs are having this amount of issue with players as Georgia is. I mean, I'm not making it up. I'm not overblowing this. It's all
no, you're telling the truth there, Jeffrey.
I don't think that Rutgers is having as many incidences as Georgia, whether it's known about or not. Social media finds out about everything. So it just isn't happening at the level Georgia is. Georgia's is insane. I've never seen anything like this before.
Well, also, Mayhem makes another good point in the comments. He said, just like Florida, when they won Natties, they had the whole team was felons. And then he also says, now that Florida sucks, we don't care or know about their discipline issues. So he makes a very good, clear, crystal point about that. I mean, Georgia could end up on the same road as Florida. Yeah. But the thing is, that I'm telling Georgia is that they need to get that disciplinary check fixed. Because if they don't,
they fall off like Florida. I mean, that's
right.
Fair. Mm-hmm. I think the thing that made it so bad for Florida too, not only that they were winning, was because of the stark contrast between their quarterback and the rest of the team. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was such a thing. Like, everybody remembers Tim Tebow, and my God, so many people love Tim Tebow.
Oh, he was good PR.
Because not only was he a flat out winner, also a lot of people resonated with him personally. You know,
he was a godsend for Florida. So
and his contrast with him versus the felons was so stark that like his spot, his leadership on the team kept that thing together. Because without him, I like that thing would have fallen quicker. Because I mean, it was bad. I agree. I mean, Florida probably still has problems today, but I mean, like I said, it isn't getting talked about, or again, it's probably not as big of an issue. Georgia's the one everybody's talking about because it's happening. I mean, when you got an X post saying this receiver for Georgia, reckless driving, and it's got a few million impressions already, it's like, because everybody's like, here we go again. Georgia's done it again. You know, it's just a bad look. You know, and the narrative that talent, you know, like creates this, or bringing in these players creates this environment where they do this, you know, the type of individual that this is happening. I don't know if that's necessarily always fair, because I feel like you can bring in talent, but if you still bring in players that, up here, like they got their head on their shoulders, that's still possible. But sometimes certain programs just want to win, so they get the most talented player possible, not taking regard to this at all. Like I know people are kind of staying in Clemson because Deshaun Watson and all that, but like the quality of individual that typically Clemson has on their team is like fantastic, right? But the talent's going down because Clemson's not getting these really high guys because they probably don't align with Dabo, right?
But
Whether
also,
that's
it's their
positive or
coaching
negative, but that's
staff.
just the way it is.
But also, it's their coaching staff. They've been having coaching staff changes. Dabo's already fired, 3 people within the last 2 years, and then fired another person, then fired another one. He needs to get his act together, and the athletic director of Clemson needs to get that fixed. Mark needs to point that out to Clemson fans also. They need to get their coaching staff and the athletic directors straightened out because they don't get their suits and ties up in that office straightened out. They better get them things settled now, because if they don't, they're going to have serious problems in the future. And it's going to be bad.
Yeah, that's fair. And Mayhem says 2 things can be true at the same time. Yes, Georgia needs to fix this. At the same time, let's not act like Georgia for criminals going to play. I wasn't trying to make it seem that way, and I apologize if I did. But the thing is that I know that there are players that up here not a head on their shoulders at every school. And I think I said that earlier. I feel like I did mention that.
You did.
But Georgia has the biggest issue, especially publicly, but it seemingly has the biggest issue right now. And I'm with you, Caden. I'm a Bama fan coming to Georgia saying, like, you need to fix this or your program is going down. I see it. I see it right now happening. And whether they win more this year or not, I have no idea. But I watched the worst year for Georgia football this past season. I don't care that they made the playoff. I don't care that they won 11 games, whatever. I saw the worst Georgia team that I've seen in the last 5 seasons for Georgia. This was the worst team in 5-6 seasons. And nobody's talking about it because of the record, but they were not good. They were not a good football team last year for their standards. Kansas basketball was a 7 seed this year. Most people are like, Kansas is still good. For their standards, it's awful. So people like Bill Self needs to fix it. Same thing. Kansas, Georgia was not as good last year. They need to fix it.
Well, and today, Kansas lost in the first round for the first time since 2006. So that's not good for Kansas standards.
No. But bottom line is, they need to get their acts together. And they also need to get those players in line. Because if they don't, they're going to have serious problems. So there's the bottom line.
Mayhem says he disagrees. Georgia won the SEC championship. I understand that. I know. But
yeah,
they were almost 8-5. They were this close to 8-5. This close. I mean, that Georgia Tech game was one of the, I'm sorry, but to me, I'm not, because I don't want to irritate you, Mayhem. I'm not trying to do that. But just my opinion is, again, what, do you agree or disagree? It doesn't matter. But in my opinion, it was one of the worst refereed games of the entire season last year. It was horrible. Every single call went Georgia's way. I'm not saying that because I don't like Georgia or nothing like that. I have nothing against Georgia except their problems off the field. But that game, Georgia Tech should have won that game. Flat out. I mean, that targeting on Haynes King was one of the worst things I've ever seen. I'm like, how do you not call that? I don't know. But that game, Georgia Tech should have won. Georgia Tech was not a great football team. And Georgia should have lost that game. Kentucky was 4-8, and they won by 1. 4-8. Bama had one of their worst seasons in 20 years. Lost to freaking Vanderbilt in Oklahoma. And Georgia, for 3/4 of that game, was lifeless. That football team had some problems last year. Not good. Not good for their standards. And I didn't rebuke Alabama Richie in any way because like 99% of what he said, completely agree with everything he said. The one thing I didn't, though, if you're still here, was he said that the SEC is so stacked. I don't agree with that right now. The SEC is not as stacked right now. So Georgia winning the SEC championship, is that as big of an accomplishment as it would have been 3-4 years ago? I don't agree with that. To me, LSU kind of sucks right now. A&M's trying to find their way. Florida's still majorly down trying to find their way. When you got programs like Ole Miss who are now at the top, now like toward the top, I don't agree. I really don't agree with that. So the SEC is not as stacked as it was a few years ago. It can get immediately back there, but that's why the Big Ten's kind of taking the reins, even though they really haven't, because they still only have like 3 good programs and that's it. But
let's not also forget the Big 12 is also kind of climbing up the ladder too. And then Joe Long, I don't want to get started with that. That team up north, no way, dude. That's a whole nother conversation that I'll have with a person another day that I've already made my point about. I've heard talk about that team enough enough. And hell, Mark Rogers, he makes my head hurt because that guy praises Michigan, but yet doesn't state their issues. He praises them for being a great program, but yet everything they did is just straight up crap. So I know Mark Rogers probably listening or watching this thing, but Mark, hate me all you want, but I'm just gonna be honest with you, brother. You need to stop rooting for those guys over there in Michigan, because those guys need to clean up their act. But also, you need to stop being so biased against Ohio State, because I've heard a few comments regarding my Buckeyes, and it's ridiculous, saying that our program is not sufficient. Quote, sufficient.
You do know Mark Rogers is an Ohio State fan, right?
He claims he is, Jeffrey, but I'm gonna be honest with you, he is a Michigan fan. But don't believe me.
That's a new one to me on that one. I don't know. I that would completely throw off my mindset on Mark Rogers' favorite.
You have to pay attention to him close, and you'll get this. You'll see. I've made him mentally. I know it. Just Jeffrey, when you listen to sometime between me and Mark a conversation, I want you to pay close attention. I'll just tell you that when you pay close attention, you'll know what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I will say, like Michigan, I mean, it took about $10 million to lure
and 3 screw jobs
LSU, like, and that's about it.
Well, and also it took them 3 screw jobs against Ohio State with their little shenanigans.
I mean, that's all I have to say about that. We'll see if they're going to be good, but I mean, I don't know.
Well, Caden, what have you got going on this week, good buddy?
I mean, I'm just going to be watching college basketball, but at the same time, I want to be. I got a special guest coming on the college football show Saturday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you guys want to check it out, I got a really special guest. Let's just say this guy's got more superstar power than The Rock and John Cena. So I want you guys to stay tuned, because this guy is going to be good, and I know you guys would like to hear what the man I'm going to be interviewing on the college football show, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Because I'll tell you what, I don't know if you guys would know, but I'm just going to say this. My guest is somebody so electrifying. It's more electrifying than the most electrifying move in all sports entertainment, the people's elbow. So I'm just going to say this. Check it out, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's on my YouTube channel. And you guys will know when and Jackson, I emailed you. I don't know if you saw the emails that I sent you to my channel, but would you mind taking a gander?
I'll be making sure to take a look.
But and then send Jeffrey the link to my YouTube channel so you guys can come and check out the Joe. Am I still working off St. Patty's Day? I didn't even freaking drink, Joe. I don't even freaking drink. I'm not that stupid, Joe. and oh, by the way, you Moose, do me a favor. You better go to the store, get tissues, because this year it's not going to end up for well for you fellas. Because I'm gonna tell you that what them Wolverines ain't gonna be nothing. Ain't gonna be no Wolverines. They're gonna be a bunch of weasels running around. I'm gonna tell you that. And then when they get caught in that weasel trap, boy, it ain't gonna be pretty. I'm gonna assure you that.
All right. Well, Caden, we'll be making sure to check you out,
Heck,
and we'll be
hold
seeing you
on,
soon.
hold on. Where's my weasel gun at? Where's my weasel gun at?
Your
Where's my
what?
weasel? Where's my weasel gun at? Hold on. Where's that weasel gun I got? Yeah. Hold on. I got my weasel gun over here, Jackson. So then weasel try to escape Ohio Stadium. At least I got him right here. I'm ready for weasel hunting season.
Well, Caden, we'll be seeing you soon, and roll tide.
Oh, Bama sucks.
All righty. See you soon. Goodbye. And before we get to our next caller, we'd like to say that we got a new YouTube member, and Moose, congratulations! You're now a YouTube member at Alabama with the Voice College Football. And if you are looking to come on in and become a member at Alabama with the Voice College Football, comment on the live chat, and the algorithm will choose you. All righty, we got our next caller. We got Mayhem coming on in. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
What's up, guys? I was just calling in to, get in on the conversation. Whatever, wants to be talked about, whatever. Oh, by the way, can I say a hot take?
Sure.
The people's elbow is not. I mean, I know The Rock says that it's the most electrifying move in all of sports entertainment, but that is totally not true. That is the weakest. Is one of the weakest electrifying moves in all of sports entertainment. It's just an elbow. Who's going to get hurt off an elbow?
Some people can't handle an elbow. I will say that it would be too much, but
Well,
I think most people could.
I'll say it like this: Who's going to get hurt off an elbow the way that The Rock does it? I mean, maybe an elbow from the top rope or something like onto somebody's head, or maybe if you get somebody's elbow right in their face or something like that. Okay, maybe, but like on your stomach, come on, I could take that. Just my hot take, but
That's fair.
But as far as the UGA thing, like I said, I want to make it really clear that yes, I do think it's wrong. I think it's 100% wrong, and one of my gripes that I've had with Georgia over the past few years, whenever this started happening, is that they continue to suspend players for like one or two games, and it doesn't really affect them, and they keep on continuing to do this type of behavior. Now Nitro Tuggle has been suspended indefinitely, and I believe there's another guy too that got suspended indefinitely. So hopefully they look, the next player that thinks about doing this looks at it and says, oh, I might never get to play football for Georgia ever again. But, this is going to continue happening at Georgia and at other universities, and just the sole reason because now the transfer portal has opened doors to where, okay, Nitro Tuggle, yeah, he's suspended indefinitely. He's only a sophomore. He can hit the transfer portal, go play for Alabama next year or whatever, right? So it ain't like he's going to really miss out on making the NFL and all his hopes and dreams are gone now. I mean, it ain't like that, right?
Yeah, I mean,
just,
you can look at it that way for sure, but I almost take that as a bad thing because it's like, again, it's still not teaching them anything. You're just running from the problem you created. You know what I'm saying? Instead of owning up to it and like making up for what you did and like earning your place back at the current program that you're at. Instead, it's like, oh, well, I don't like the fact they suspended me indefinitely and I can't play, so I'm going to leave and go to another school and it's all good. No, it's not, because if you do it again, you're not learning anything. Like,
Yeah.
how many times have we seen people commit crimes in America and then they get let out and then they commit the same crime the next day? And it's like, and then they let them out again and then they commit the same crime. It's like, you can't do that, because it's like, you're just going to keep doing it. Person keep doing it if you're getting away with it. You can't do that. And I know, I know for some people that's probably a touchy subject, but it's facts. If you commit a crime, you're supposed to go to jail, and you're supposed to go to jail for the time you're supposed to go to jail for. There's a reason that there's laws that are set for the amount of time you're supposed to be in jail for certain things, because it makes you be like, yeah, I don't want to do that again because this kind of sucks. But if you just get let out after doing something wrong, you're going to do it again because, like, I wasn't punished for it. That's just the human experience. That's just the human brain. Especially, I mean, if you're dumb enough to do something stupid enough to get yourself in jail, then you're probably going to be stupid enough to do it again if you didn't get in trouble for it. I mean, that's just the way it is. So I think, like, yeah, if Nitro wants to transfer, that's great for him, but it's not teaching him anything.
Right. I mean, I totally agree with everything you just said, 100%. I was the only reason why I was, trying to, in the comment section, right? I was just trying to, pick your brain a little bit and see, I was just trying to see, like, okay, if I played, the opposite side, I just wanted to see what would you say about it, right? Like, for example, I looked up like what is technically reckless driving in Georgia, and like 15 miles over. So, we haven't had all the details of this current situation, but let's just say he was going 45 and a 30, which I'm sure most people, normal people, have done before. That would be considered reckless driving in Georgia. But a lot of some of these, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not taking up for Georgia. I'm not doing that. I'm just stating facts. Some of these, speeding tickets that have been charged with these Georgia players, I mean, have been kind of like petty speeding tickets, and some of them have been really serious. Like a couple years ago, we seen the death of, a few people, including a Georgia football player. We've seen a staffer get killed, so it's very serious. There are very serious cases, but then some of them, aren't so serious because they're maybe 5 miles or 10 miles over the speed limit getting a speeding ticket, right? And a lot of people think, well, that's really terrible, but then they're the same people that are doing the same exact thing, right? And like, I'm not taking up for it. I want that to be completely clear. I am not taking up for it. I'm just saying that, I would like to, think about these things on a case by case basis. And also, Kirby Smart does need to start doing something. He does need to be held accountable for it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's, I mean, I don't know if Kirby Smart, I don't know how Kirby Smart feels toward it. Like, if I talk to him one-on-one, personal level, and was like, hey, Kirby Smart, how do you feel about all this stuff going on? And if he told me, he'd be like, hey, Jeffrey, you know what? I don't like it. Like, I can't stand it, but I don't know what I can do. If that's the response, and I'd be like, all right, Kirby, like that's fair, but maybe through suggestion by someone else, kind of like we just talked about with Caden, maybe they could hire somebody to help with that or whatever, something like that. But if you talk to him and like with no like microphone, none of that, just one-on-one, no one hears all that kind of stuff, and his responses as well, I don't really care as long as we win. And then it's like, yeah, Kirby, that's not cool. But you don't know how he feels about it because he hasn't spoken about it to my knowledge. I don't know. And that's the thing. There's a lot of unknowns with everything because we don't know how he feels or the program feels. Because I mean, it's not good. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I do think Kirby Smart, and I agree with you. I do think Kirby Smart does need to address this. Like, hey, do not come to Georgia. I mean, there's no way of really telling. I mean, he's recruiting these guys out of high school, and he's not saying, hey, and he's not interviewing these guys and say, hey, You want to speed for us? I mean, he's not doing that. There's no way of really knowing, like, okay, is Nitro? Oh, I'm gonna recruit Nitro Tuggle because it says Nitro in his name, and he might speed one day. I mean, he's not doing that. So there's no real way of knowing, like, okay, who do I recruit that's not going to break the law? You know what I mean? So I understand whenever people say, like, it's not all Kirby's fault. I understand that, but I also think that he needs to be held accountable, because I'll give you a perfect example. So if I go out and do something very bad, what 9 times out of 10 people are going to, whenever they talk about me, they're going to say, who raised him, right? And they're going to look at my parents. They're going to say, man, he should have been taught better as a child not to do stuff like that whenever he got raised, like he had bad raising, right? So I think, it all starts, number one, with a good raising, having a good set of parents, and number two, having a good leader in Kirby Smart to help you make very good decisions and prevent you from making bad decisions. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean,
So I think
everything you just said, I 100% agree with.
And right, and yes, I will agree that it is wrong, but the simple fact is, as long as Georgia's winning 9, 10, 11, 12 and up games and national titles and SEC titles, yeah, this is going to kind of be swept under the rug. But I promise you, the first 7-5 season Kirby has, he probably is going to get fired, most likely. And I know that's a hot take, but I don't think it's that hot. Look at Ed Orgeron. Won a national championship, and was it 2 years later he was gone?
Mm-hmm.
And, there's allegations that he was messing with some young girls in college and cheating on his wife, and his wife divorced him, and all kind of stuff came out, right? And we didn't know about that whenever he was winning the 2019 national championship. We didn't know anything about that, but as soon as crap hit the fan, we started knowing all about this stuff. I mean, I don't know what's being hidden right now because of the success that Georgia's having. But once Georgia does go 7-5, you think Georgia's just going to pay Kirby Smart his buyout and that's it? No, they're going to try to find any and every way to not have to pay that buyout. Just like with the whole Mel Tucker at Michigan State, they tried their best to set him up, and I can keep on going with the list, but once you don't have any success anymore in football, yeah, you're going to get thrown on the bus.
I thought that was going to happen to Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. I thought he wasn't going to get any of it, or a reduced fraction by far, and somehow that didn't happen. He got it all. But with all the stuff that was going on over there, I thought that they were going to find a way to weasel their way out of giving that to him, but that didn't happen. But yeah, you're right. I mean, so many schools do that where it's like, yeah, this happened, you're not getting anything. So I mean, I think it's unfortunate as well that it takes losing for stuff like that to come out. That's what's bogus. Like, it shouldn't matter if you're winning or not. It should.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I just want to clear up that, I wanted to clear up that I do think it's wrong. I do. And I think Kirby should be held accountable. I was just saying that, on this particular case, we didn't really know all the details. I mean, it could be something like I said earlier about, it could be him driving 45 in a 30 and then they count that as reckless driving, or he could have been actually driving like 150 miles an hour. I don't know what he was doing. We have to figure that out later whenever it eventually comes out. But that's why I was in the comment section just talking about that specific case. And then the other thing that I was saying in the comment section was, Like, I just tried to look up the most arrests in college football in 2024, and I really couldn't find anything except for Georgia articles, right?
Mm.
Which is alarming to me because I know for a fact that there has been multiple arrests in different college football teams. I wish there was an article that was, team by team in their arrests, so I can actually compare the
That would be
teams.
something that would be fantastic for someone to go like research, like spend a lot of time researching and find that out, because it's such a relevant thing right now with Georgia and some of the
Yeah,
other instances that have occurred, like the Alabama stuff a couple years ago in basketball. Like if you had that, that would be crazy. I think you would see a pattern. I do think you would see a pattern of like certain programs that do recruit very well, like the certain type of individual they're bringing in is not maybe the best. I think you would see in that regard, but I do think, to your point, to give credit where credit's due on I guess you would say the inconsistencies with reporting. There probably are, to your point, other small schools that have a lot of issues too that we don't know. I don't disagree. That's probably 100% true. But like you said, no one knows or cares, I guess. But
yeah. I just, now I will say this, that if you were to tell me that Georgia had the most in 2024 arrest, then I probably wouldn't be shocked about it, right? I would be like, well, they did have a lot and they should own up to it and be accountable for it. They should be held accountable. But on the other hand, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a smaller team out there that nobody cares about. Like, I'll just, like, um, you know, I don't know, Alabama A&M or something. I don't know. Uh, or any other team. I don't really care what team, Tulane, whatever, that might have more. I wouldn't be surprised about that either, right?
Mm.
But I mean, there are some schools, if you told me if they had the most, I would actually be kind of surprised. There are some teams I'll probably be surprised about, but
yeah, like Northwestern.
yeah, well, they had, hey, don't let them fool you. They had that little sock,
Yeah.
the car
Yeah.
wash incident.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll take that one back. We'll say Stanford. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll say Stanford.
But
Yeah, right. Immediately when I said that, I was like, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that." Yeah, I remembered.
but I mean, every school has their little problems that they and see, that's another team that they fired their coach with cause, and they didn't have to pay him his money because
Which is
I
hilarious
mean,
because like his buyout wasn't like massive, but still, it's because it's Northwestern. They don't put as much money in athletics, so yeah.
yeah, they
Want to pay
didn't.
it, so like you're gone. Yeah.
They didn't pay that man, even though he said he didn't know nothing about it.
It's hard to
Which,
believe whether they say they didn't know it or not. It's like Rick Pitino. He said he didn't know anything with all that stuff going on at Louisville. I mean, it's hard to believe they wouldn't know, but I don't know. It's just.
but do you think the now this is going to sound like a crazy question, but I do want to get your thoughts on it. Do you think the crime rate in college football, let's just take Georgia aside, set Georgia aside, because we already know they have a lot of problems, but just in general, do you think the crime rate in college football has gone up now that, we're getting, teams giving out Lamborghinis and airplanes and millions of dollars and stuff like that with NIL? Do you think that contributes to to more crimes committed?
I would say
Or does that have nothing to do with it?
I think it does. I mean, I could be completely wrong. If someone can prove it to me that I am in that opinion, then sure, I'd be like, yeah, you're right. If you have proof, I don't think so. I think that it absolutely does, because you're giving young people who are very, they're not mature, and a lot of young people are very irresponsible. That's why I stopped mid sentence, because the way I was going to come out is saying all young people are irresponsible. No, that is not true. But you're not matured all the way, even if you are responsible, and a lot are irresponsible. It's like you're away from home more than likely for the first time in your life. and you're getting, if these reports are true, 4 million, 3 million, some of these big players, $1 million, and you're getting a car, and it's like, oh my gosh, I got a car that can, go. You know what I'm saying? It's not a Civic, it's not a Camry, it's not just a basic car. It's like, oh my gosh, I got a Lambo. Let's put this thing in gear. It's like, that's great, but then you're again being irresponsible and driving at a speed. And some of the cases of Georgia and these other instances at other schools that this has happened. Because Indiana, I like Indiana too. Is another team I like. They had an incident where their point guard 2 years ago was driving 100 miles an hour down one of the roads on the campus at 3 a.m. Was anybody out at 3 a.m.? No. Should he have been driving 100 miles an hour? No. He got caught and he got in trouble. And it was in the off season, so he didn't miss any time during the season. But he was suspended all off season, which I would have preferred him to get suspended for like the first few games of the actual season. And I was a proponent for that. It didn't happen. So I was a little upset with that. But I mean, so yeah, like you're getting a car that you can drive really fast in, and you're going to do that. And instead of doing it in areas you should, they're going to do it on main roads, and it's dumb. But they're 18 to 20 years old, 21 years old, 19, whatever. It's like you can say it's understandable why they're doing these things, but you can't do these things. I mean, like some people have said that they need to have like, I don't want to use counseling. It's just, I don't know, but they need to have like some type of program or something for these guys and be like, hey, like you're getting a lot of money now for the first time in your life, presumably, like how to manage it, like what you save a lot of it, or like be responsible with it. Like don't, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe that could help. I don't know if it would, but like a lot of people said, like with NBA players, how many NBA players and NFL players are broke because they blew all their money? Like have like like an economics thing where like, hey, this is what you need to do with your money instead of blowing it all. Like don't be like Mike Tyson and others, like just, I don't know. Because again, it might not help for some because they might just do it anyway, but that could maybe help. I'm kind of rambling, but I think that could help maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to clear up one more time because I feel like when I first got on here, I might have sounded like I was, trying to take up for Georgia. I'm not trying to take up for Georgia, right? I want to 100% say that, yes, Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs does have a problem. They do, a serious problem, and they should be held accountable for that. And Kirby Smart should definitely be held accountable for that. And every single time that he's being asked questions, that should come up every single time. Every single time throughout this offseason, that should be a question until he actually addresses it. So I just want to say that. And then the other thing is, I was just saying that for this specific case right here, that, I would like for some more information to come out before I just give my opinion on it, because it could be a situation where he was going 45 and a 30. And then the other thing I was saying was, there are other college football teams that do have problems, serious problems. And I know Georgia is well known for, their reckless driving. Maybe other teams have other problems. I know I seen last year Arkansas. Now I don't know if this really got popular or if I just seen it one time and that was about it. I don't know if y'all know about this, but Sam, there was this female that was on Instagram and trying to the quarterback or something, or was it a quarterback or I think, I don't know if it was the quarterback or not. It was one of the offensive guys. Apparently did something to that girl, and she was trying to get Sam Pittman fired. I don't know what ever happened about that, but I guess nothing ever happened of it because I didn't really hear anything more about it. But I know that there was a whole entire Instagram account with like 10,000 followers on it. And but anyways, that happened, and then we already talked about a few other ones, and I had one in my head just now. Oh, LSU. LSU had a couple of them as well with gambling issues, and What happened to Kyron Lacey? Was he involved in? He was involved in something. Kyron Lacey. See, it's hard for me to remember because it's not really talked about that much because they're a mediocre team at best, which I thought they were going to be really good, but I was really wrong. But anyways, I just wanted to clear that up one more time because sometimes I'll also ramble and I got to reiterate stuff, but
yeah, I will say before you go, I will say one more point on that. It's also a reputation thing too, right? So it's like because Georgia has had all these instances that have been reported and everybody knows about it, it becomes a reputation thing. So like every time something happens, it's like, I mean, even first reaction when I saw that, here we go again, yet again, right? So like you take a city like it was pretty safe, right? Like a city that doesn't have a lot of crime, and then suddenly a 10-year span goes by where there's tons of crime. Like, oh my gosh, the crime has just gone off the charts. It's insane. It's one of the most dangerous cities now. And then like after that, it starts getting a little safer again. Like measures are taken, like the things are moving up, right, in a positive direction. But still that vibe, that aura, whatever of crime is still there. Like people are still like hesitant there. You know what I'm saying? Like it might be safer statistically now. Like we got all the proof that this city is safer now. That stretch where it was very dangerous, it's still there. So it's the same thing to me. We're like Georgia, it's gonna take a while to shake this off, even if they do.
For sure.
Because like Florida, we're still talking about. I was a little kid. I was a toddler when they were having all that stuff with Tim Tebow, and we're still here talking about Florida back then with all that.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a while.
Another team that they're still talking about is the Criminals. I mean, the Florida State Criminals, and they're still talking about old buddy stealing crab legs. I mean,
James Winston.
I mean, and it seems like he's a good person now. I mean, nobody can hate Jameis Winston now, can they? I mean,
I remember he was on Theo Vaughn a few years back, and I think he's like calling games for Fox.
Yeah, I mean, he was a quarterback, and then he got let go. But I mean, people are still hating on him now and don't even know what he does now and who he is now. I mean, that guy probably feels like he's never going to let go of that crab leg situation.
Yeah, and in that case, they should. I mean, if you have like stopped doing stuff wrong, like you've grown and matured as a person, and like that was a long time ago, right? Like 15, 20 years ago, then I think people should be like, yeah, that was in the past. You made a
exactly.
If you're a person, you just keep doing bad stuff all your life, and you're irredeemable. But like, you got somebody that's like 18 years old, just does something really dumb and it stains your reputation. But then you're like 40 years old, you live in a clean life, haven't done anything wrong since then. Then yeah, people should be like, yeah, he's fine now. Like he's not that person anymore. But some people have a hard time because again, it's a reputation thing. It's been stained.
Yeah. But I also wanted to ask you one more question before I get off here because you did mention one thing that I wasn't really stirred up about it. I just, I like having conversations and stuff like that. But how close was Alabama to going like 7-5?
I don't disagree with that.
We almost lost to South Carolina.
I do not disagree with that. Both Alabama and Georgia didn't do well. Like the thing that irritated me about the narratives, kind of like we've discussed with all this program stuff with culture and everything, is how some of it's talked about, some of it isn't. Alabama was getting panned this season. Oh, they're horrible. They're down. They're the boards. It's all over. It's falling off. He's going to get fired in a couple of years. Alabama's dynasty's over. And it's like, but with Georgia, they're like, oh, Georgia's still great. They won the SEC. And I'm like, they're not that far apart here. The difference is that Alabama lost an extra game. Well, 2 because of Michigan. But prior to the bowl game, they lost an extra game, missed the playoff. Georgia made the playoff, won the SEC. And it's like, but both were bad compared to what they've been. You know what I'm saying? But Bama was getting all the flack. Georgia was just skirting by. It's like, well, because if they had a loss to Kentucky, they had a loss to Georgia Tech, people don't, oh my gosh, they're horrible. What's going on, Kirby? But that didn't happen. See, Alabama didn't do that because they lost the 2 bad games, and Georgia found a way not to lose those games, but it was this close. So to me, I felt Georgia and Bama should have had the same conversations of like, yeah, these teams are down. But only Bama was getting the coverage of that, whereas Georgia was like, everything's still fine, which I didn't agree with. But I see your point. Bama could have easily been 7-5, just like Georgia could have been 8-5, but they both won some games. So
I just feel like you can take like Ohio State, for example, right? The national champions.
Yeah.
I mean, they almost lost to Nebraska. They should have lost to Nebraska.
49.
And if they would have lost to Nebraska, they wouldn't even be in the playoffs. They would have had, what, 3 losses?
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't have even been in the playoffs. So you wouldn't even have them as a national champion. So my point is, like, yeah, maybe Georgia wasn't as good as they were in 21 and 22 and not even 23. Yeah, they had a worse year than all 3 of them years. But, you know, we had a lot of resilience, and we were able to persevere, and we didn't lose the games that we almost lost. And yeah, we won, we won the SEC championship, and where most people thought that we were going to lose to Texas in the regular season, and they still doubted us, and we still won in the SEC championship.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
Mayhem.
fair. Definitely fair.
Oh, yeah. Well, Mayhem, what you got going on this week, man? Like,
this week I got, well, I already got something, today I uploaded a conversation with, AJ Bush, quarterback 2026. And
nice.
so, got that going. And then I also got a couple more conversations that I'm going to have with, the other football players, and, try to see what they got going on, and hopefully we can get some good insight on them. And then I got another guy, Brandon Phoenix. He's going to be on my channel. I already recorded the video, just got to upload it. So got a few things going in the works, and hopefully I'll be getting a lot of content out for you guys.
There you go.
Awesome.
Well, call back anytime, man. Don't be a stranger.
Appreciate you for coming on, man. Great conversation.
There we go. And Godfather of the SC is tuning in, saying, not a Georgia fan. Hello, Jeffrey and Jackson. How you doing tonight, Godfather? Glad to see you. And, I've been wondering about our quarterback battle. And that's going to be like the last thing we talk about before I guess we'll take any more callers tonight. But they say that Austin Mack is getting closer. He's kind of having a say-so in this quarterback battle. How you feel about that, man?
I mean, I think that it's fantastic that he's fighting for the job. I mean, it shows that he wants to win the job. Because, I mean, that's what you got to do. I mean, if you want to be the starting quarterback at Alabama, you got to work, your behind off. You have to fight for it. And even when you win the job, it's not guaranteed to remain your job. Like we saw with Jalen Hurts, he lost his job to Tua. Even though he only threw like 2 picks all year, it just got to the point where it's like, you know what? If we want to win this title, we got to bring Tua in. They did, and then the rest was history. You've seen with Milroe, he was the starting quarterback. Saban was like, you know what? You're not playing good enough. He benched him. Obviously, he got his job back after the South Florida game, but my point is that it's Bama. The standard at Bama is extremely high, and especially at the quarterback position, because we've had, even though a lot of them haven't had NFL success, we're getting there with some of them, but we haven't, had a lot of NFL success, but our college, quarterbacks, like the quarterbacks when they've been in college, Mac Jones, NFL struggled, but when he was at Bama, because of the talent that we had, the offensive line that we had, the receivers that we had a great year. Mac Jones has had a great year. Tua, Hurts, Milroe statistically was a lot better the year prior to this past season. But, I'm just saying a lot of great quarterbacks in college. So the standard is high for Keelan Russell, Ty Simpson, or Austin Mack, whoever wins the job. The standard is really high for those guys to do very well. Or, you know, if they're named the starter, it's not guaranteed that they're going to keep the job. So that's the way I look at that. And if Austin Mack is generating, you know, positive press that he is working his way to possibly being in competition for QB1, then I think it's great for him individually. I don't know what that says about Keelan Russell or Ty Simpson, whether maybe they're not doing good enough or maybe they are, and Austin Mack's doing great. So honestly, iron sharpens iron. It's a phrase that a lot of people use. You know, you can say it's cliche, but I think that Austin Mack really, if he is really significantly competing for the job, I think that improves the quarterback room. Because if the presumed starter, whether it's Keelan Russell, doesn't necessarily work out, you have something to fall back on with maybe Ty Simpson and Austin Mack if they're a good quarterback option number 2, instead of it being like you're just putting all your eggs in one guy and then the backups are terrible. So I think all in all, it's a positive thing. I still don't think legitimately he's going to win the job or even be close, but if he is generating positive press for it, I think overall it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it would be cool to see what he can do. Like, you know, because I mean, like Austin Mack bringing it out, that's huge. I mean, like stepping up in 4th spring practice, like boom, all the way. It's like boom. And yeah, it would be huge. Like, cause like you said, it would be great for a quarterback room. But we don't want to get overly reliant on Keelan, hoping he'll be there. But you don't want to get overly reliant on Ty Simpson as well.
Nope, because I mean they might not work out. I mean, I think honestly, if Bama's in a situation where neither of those guys do work out, I think there's problems. Not that, you know, Austin Mack, he could be good, but I don't think in that scenario Alabama's in good shape. I think Keelan Russell more than likely is going to be the guy. I think that more than likely he's Bama's best bet to have the best season they can possibly have this year. And if not, then I am concerned. It doesn't mean that things couldn't work out with someone else, but that's just my opinion. But like I said, I think that it is good for the quarterback competition anyway to make Keelan Russell work even harder for the job, because you don't want to just give it to him. You don't want him to just get it. You want him to earn it. And if Ty Simpson and Austin Mack can push him, then that will make him better. And if something happened to Keelan Russell, God forbid, or he got hurt, or if he's struggling, then you have someone to fall back on, like you said, not putting all your eggs in one basket. So,
yeah, because I mean, like the 2014 Ohio State team is like an example of why, you know, it's always good to have all your quarterbacks ready and all set. So I mean, you know, starting QB gets hurt, fall camp out for the year. Then you got your backup JT Barrett stepping it up. Then he gets hurt against Michigan. He's out. And then you got Cardell Jones stepping it up in the Big Ten title game and the playoffs. Boom.
yeah, I mean, that's one of the most famous examples of that for sure. Like, if Ohio State did not have that plethora of quarterback options, then they would have been screwed. But they were able to survive all those issues that they had with their starting, you know, couple quarterbacks starting back or whatever, and they went all the way to Cardell Jones. So that definitely worked out. I mean, most of the time that isn't the case. Most of the time a team doesn't have that many good enough quarterbacks to do that, because especially now in the NIL era, what's a guy going to do if he's not starting? Transfer. So it's harder and harder to have competent backups now. But if Alabama does have 3 capable quarterbacks, then I think overall, again, it is a win. I think it is a big-time win if Ty Simpson and Austin Mack do not win the job, just to be there and be good quarterback, you know, number 2 and 3 options, in my opinion. So we'll definitely see. I mean, like I said, I've probably repeated myself about 5 or 6 times on this subject tonight, but we are so far away for the football season. We are still significantly far away for the spring game. It's not super far, but it's a few weeks. So it's like
3 more weeks till spring.
We're so
game.
far away from knowing who the quarterback battle is going to be. I've stated my thoughts on it. Keelan Russell, to me, is QB1 right now. But those other guys, kudos to them if they fight and get really close to winning the job. And definitely kudos if one of them does win the job. but we have no idea. It is just so early. I think if you're able to go, I think you're going to get a lot more insight on it. But as of now, I mean, we just don't really know much more than what we've been told and what our overall gut feeling is on it.
Yeah. And in the poll in the chat that was put out tonight, as I asked, who would you like to be the starter for 2025? 38% say they want Keelan Russell. 31% say they want Ty Simpson. And 31% want Austin Mack. And that's out of 13 votes. Holy
yeah, I mean, it's
Toledo.
definitely a small sample size for sure. A bigger sample size would be a better determining factor in really who people want. I definitely appreciate everybody for voting, the view that voted, but I will say that it's a small sample size. Like when usually if I post like a poll on X, I might get like 100 votes, and that's still not a lot, but like it's more. And plus, I mean, X is really hard to gauge like polling results because a lot of people just you'll sometimes get like a stream of people from like one fan base that will raid your poll and completely mess it up and make the results inaccurate. I've had that happen before. Like one time, I had a poll for Player of the Year, and Tennessee fans rated my poll and voted for Dalton Connect to win Player of the Year over Zach Edey. So my results were 98% Dalton Connect for Player of the Year and 2% for Zach Edey. So that who ended up winning Player of the Year in college basketball the year? We know it was Zach Edey, but Connect at 98% of my vote because Tennessee fans that follow me rated my poll and were retweeting the poll to all Tennessee fans, and they were all voting in it. So it was not accurate. So yeah.
Oh, we will, Godfather. We will make sure to have that poll on our personal @/Twitter accounts. We will do that for sure.
But it is interesting that the poll is so tight. I again feel Keelan Russell has the edge for now, but things could definitely change.
Yep. And apparently UNC Wilmington Texas Tech is a little close for March Madness right now.
Yeah, that game's close. St. John's is blowing the doors off Omaha, and UC San Diego. They were close with Michigan for a while. Now they're down 10, but they've been hanging within a slight distance behind. So it's definitely been interesting. Honestly, March Madness today overall, the games were not close. Not saying they were bad, but a lot of the games were not close. The Arkansas-Kansas game.
I don't have a feeling they're saving it up for the big upset tomorrow. Like there's going to be
probably be a big upset tomorrow. McNeese and Drake weren't big upsets to me. But
just don't let it be our Crimson Tide. Don't let that be
no.
We're gonna beat up on.
We need to beat Robert Morris by 30, 40 points. Let's get it done.
Agreed. Let's get it done. And here's what else we need to get done. Telling you to check out the Voice College Football X account /Twitter, where you can get top-notch discussion, debate, and analysis with no off-season. There we are. We're breaking the fourth wall on the Voice College Football once again. Our guy, Mark Rogers, doing Buckeyes Live with Steve Hellwagon from 247 Sports and Tony Gertman from Buckeye Huddle. It was moved up to Thursday for, well, obvious reasons. March Madness, of course. And our guy, TJ_Ronan, having the Michigan call-in show with Kinetic 34614, I believe that's his name. Check him out. Our guy Garrison and Ryan Stanos on Ohio State Voice College Football. Man, we have a wild lineup from the Voice College Football on @/Twitter. But what else have we got for you? The Voice of College Football Instagram account, where you can definitely get top-notch discussion, debate, analysis, and of course, top-notch news events like Ron Rivera becoming a GM for Cal football. Although I don't know how that's going to improve Cal football, but okay. So
Cal needs a lot more than that to turn them around.
And there's a news item of Matt Weiss doing 24 counts of having unauthorized access to computers and identity theft, doing God knows what. But that is not been a pretty day. But we'll wait and see for the Michigan Wolverines, see what happens. But as for us, we've got some magic coming your way from Alabama with the Voice of College Football. And Jeffrey, what have you got going on your world this week? Because, I mean, you had a live stream with Sports Talk with Austin. Tell the people about it, man.
Yeah, appreciate that, Jackson. Yes, on Tuesday night, I went live with Sports Talk with Austin to talk about March Madness. Obviously, it's a little outdated now because a lot of the games have happened today, but we made our picks for every single round of 64 game, and we made our preliminary picks for the Final Four and who was going to win the national championship this year. I picked Alabama in my bracket to win the national championship. Is that going to happen? Probably not. I hope it does, though. I hope Alabama get their first title ever in college basketball. That would be fantastic. But I picked it in my bracket. We might do another live stream like during the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, something like that, to revisit our picks, see how many of them we got wrong, and to like re-update like who we think is going to win it all, like or the Final Four selections again if the teams we did pick are already out. So definitely expect that on the way. Definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel, Only Talk Sports, if you haven't already. Would definitely appreciate it. And also probably going to be releasing like a few more shorts or something like that for the round of 64 games, like to get a little snapshot of some of the games, like who, we picked to win. And definitely we'll do that again for the future, upcoming games in the Sweet 16 and beyond when we get to that. And obviously you can catch me here every Monday and Thursday nights on the Alabama channel with Jackson and Johnny on Monday and Jackson on every Thursday. It's always a blast talking Alabama football with you guys. I definitely appreciate all the support.
Oh, man. Well, we appreciate you very much, good buddy. And you can also check out my episode, The Jacksonian with Grayson Boone, the co-host of Locked On Wolfpack. We filmed it the day before it was official that Will Wade became the head coach of North Carolina State. So it's like, well, part of it's already outdated, but that's okay. We had a great time all the same. So we talked a little bit about North Carolina State football. Does the same fate await Dave Doreen? That's going to be the question there. We even talked a little bit about baseball, like the Red Sox. It's like, that's pretty fun. Could we see Amazon Prime take the MLB away from ESPN and have Al Michaels finally call some good games? Get him back to calling the Major League Baseball. Get him back to doing that. That'd be cool. I mean, he's an old man, for God's sakes. Give him something nice. But, of course, you can check out, see what I have to say on The Jacksonian, episode 64, with Grayson Boone, the co-host of Locked On Wolfpack. And you can check me out on my personal YouTube channel where I host The Jacksonian on Jackson Johnson 979, where I'm 104 subs away from that magic number 500. I'll definitely need all the help I can get on there for sure. And you can check out any updates I've got on Alabama with the Voice of College Football, which you will see very soon. Updates on Alabama with the Voice of College Football and Jacksonian. You can check them out on Jackson BOCFB on /Twitter and on Instagram and Threads at Jackson Johnson 543 908. Alabama with the Voice of College Football is, I believe, 53 subs away from 2,600. We are looking up. No, we're 55 subs away from 2,600. No worries. We know you love Alabama Voice College Football. Tell your friends, your family, and the cashiers at Publix about the magic that we are making sure that we are creating for you as we discuss the latest news and notes on the Alabama Crimson Tide, all right here on Alabama with the Voice College Football. And let me tell you something, folks. You're in for a wild ride. And roll Tide. Like, comment, subscribe, click on the notification bell so you never miss no video whatsoever. And we will see you soon. Good night, everybody.